Hello, movie podcast fans. Welcome to a introductory video for this week's Best Movie Podcast Ever. You'll notice this is recorded a few days after us actually recording it if you're watching the video, because I'm wearing a different shirt. Unfortunately, this is just to say we had some problems with Anthony's audio in the recording of this week's episode, so you may find that it sounds a bit blown out and a bit grainy in some places. Sorry about that. It should be back to normal next week, and hopefully it doesn't impact your listening experience too much this time around. But it's still great content, so we hope you enjoy it. Check out the show. Hello there! It's Thursday, which means it's time once again for the Best Movie Podcast Ever, the only movie podcast which offers objective, hyperbole-free discussion of every movie in the known universe. I am your host, the podcaster with no name, and with me as always, he's walking here. It's Anthony James.
Good afternoon, good evening, good night. That's a great one.
That was I saw a video on Twitter of, I've forgotten the other guy's name in it now, but Dustin Hoffman and the other guy from Ishtar doing an interview, like on the promo tour for that, like the press junket for that movie, and it put me in a Dustin Hoffman kind of mood. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna put some Midnight Cowboy in the beginning of this.
Do you know that actually is gonna come back later? That quote. We'll just say that.
Oh, wow, okay, maybe I've been preasing. I did not... That's a cool shot, folks. I did not know that was coming. Welcome. If you've never joined us before, it's going to be a movie diary this week where Anthony and I talk about all the movies we've seen since the last time we did one of these, which was last week, so it'll be a handful. Thank you for checking us out. If you're watching us on YouTube, you probably already know this, but please subscribe to us on YouTube at The Culture Cave or on podcasting apps. We're the best movie podcast ever. Give the video a like, get involved in the comments, share the show with your friends. But other than that, I say it's time to talk about some movies.
Let's do it.
Movies. We've all heard about them. We're here to talk about them. Let's get right into it. I confessed this to Anthony before the stream. I'm riding high on the sugar wave of a pan au chocolat, which I consumed
chocolat.
Not 30 minutes ago. So you, dear listener and viewer, will see my energy levels just slowly drop down as the sugar rush wears off. But let's ride this wave into the fucking ground.
Can't wait.
So, what kind of stuff did you watch this week? Give me a general sense.
A general sense. Well, two rewatches on my part and one new one. Two of them were Oscar nominees, if not winners. Okay. And the other one was a spy comedy that was all right, that starred a wrestler.
All right, I'm trying to think what that was. I might know what film that is. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to hearing about it.
I'm sure you heard about it already.
I might have seen it. We'll see. Let's see. Mine. I'm gonna front load this episode by saying I had a terrible week for movies this week. There were there's two bang average movies, one that was pretty good and one that was fucking shocking. So unfortunately, if this is the first time listening to this, please don't take this as a reflection of how I feel about all movies. Normally I'm very positive, but it's a bad week this week. So why don't we start things off positively and you lead the way with something that hopefully you enjoyed.
Okay, so we could start something off positively. Now, I could go for a film that I absolutely love, which I rewatched, and that's all positive, but I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
I'm going to focus on a film which I used to be negative about, and maybe I've changed my mind a little bit.
Oh, Evolution. That's what we like to see here on the Best Movie Podcast Ever.
It isn't Evolution, starring Stifler.
It's Sean William Scott, and I believe David Duchovny is in that movie as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it is not Evolution, although that is a fantastic film from my childhood. I haven't watched that since I was an adult, so I don't even know that is an inappropriate Anthony childhood film.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that holds up to modern scrutiny, to be honest, that movie.
Yeah, okay. Right, so it is actually 2013's Gravity by Alfonso Cuarón.
Very good.
Yeah, so I rewatched Gravity. I'd only seen Gravity once before, and it's obviously a story of two astronauts who are sort of stuck out in space, in low orbit, near the International Space Station, when a cloud of debris or a sort of an area of debris comes through and ruins their spaceship.
Apparently a real phenomena as well. That I wasn't aware of it, but like the because we've been firing stuff into space for the best part of half a century now. Apparently there is a lot of debris just whipping around. In low orbit now. Yeah,
and they have to take it into account when they send rockets up and things.
Yeah.
It's not a problem if you're not at the same altitude, but if you are, that's a problem. So basically, the reason why I used to be cold on this film is for two reasons. The first reason is when I first saw it, I went into it. I was doing my teaching certificate. So this is around the time I met you, Konrad, and I went to it with our mutual friend. He was a mathematics student doing a master's at Imperial College London, and I went with him to the Imperial College London cinema to see this.
Yeah.
And so I met a load of his course mates there, and all these mathematicians were there, and I'm a mathematician myself, but they were all there, and they were talking about how much this is going to be scientifically accurate.
Yeah, and there's a couple of bits in this that I bet they did not like as a result.
And around the release of this film, everyone was talking. Even articles were talking about this was a really scientific accurate film.
Yeah.
Let me just say, there's a difference between scientific accuracy and it being realistic.
Yeah. Yeah,
there's a difference.
Yeah, there definitely is.
Okay, so you first start watching the film. They're out working on the space station. I've had months of this film being brought up as scientifically accurate in my mind, and I sit down to watch it. The first thing I see is George Clooney buzzing about with a little jetpack on,
singing to Johnny Cash or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, listening to Johnny Cash or whatever.
Yeah.
Out on a spacewalk, presumably with no mission. The other two are actually doing something. He's just zooming about,
just hanging out. Yeah, he's
hanging out, talking about the Sandra Bullock's blue eyes, flirting with her, in
Cool
space.
Hand Luke in space, just what's going on?
To be honest with you, that started me off on the wrong foot altogether with this film. The other part is I'm not going to mention it, but there's a part later on in the film which
I think you can probably mention it. I reckon you can get away with mentioning it.
Okay. So there's a part later on in the film where George Clooney's character makes a reappearance. We'll say.
Yeah. Okay.
And for me, it's a moment where the main character Sandra Bullock gets a piece of information from George Clooney's reappearance, and she wouldn't have otherwise known that information.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to put that across as, oh, okay, well that's just her realizing it subconsciously or that sort of thing. At the time when I first saw it, I don't know why that really didn't sit well with me. I just thought it was a cop out in storytelling, to be honest with you.
I think I'm a bit hot and cold on Alfonso Cuarón. I think he when I think of distracting one takes, he's the director I think of, because a lot of his one takes feel very, very self-congratulatory. Like I can almost feel people being like, check out this shot every time it's happening. And they are technically amazing, don't get me wrong. Like the beginning of Gravity I think is his best one. Yeah, ironically I think it's his least technically impressive, because obviously there's so much green screen work going on. But I think it's the best one because you can it utilizes the kind of inherent value of a one shot to really increase the tension without breaking the the continuity of the scene. He, in a lot of his movies, I feel like he kind of falls back on very, very stereotypical story beats. And maybe to a certain extent, maybe it's the fault of the screenplays that he chooses to work with. But yeah, the George Clooney spirit guide moment and the firing yourself across space with a fire extinguisher moment are two of the dumbest things I've ever seen in a space movie. And I wouldn't mind them if the rest of the movie wasn't so insistent upon being realistic. But
that's the thing. See, at the moment in The Martian with Matt Damon, the moment where he cuts his spacesuit and flies through the space, I'm like, this film, it fits that film, and that moment is deserved. Whereas, when it's all been, it's like a character study of this one character, a lot of this movie, and it's building it in as realistic, and they're trying to be realistic. It's like completely modern day space technology and everything like that. And then to rely on such obvious beats, as well as that, this I know I really like, but having said that, like, it is very obvious at the same time, but I do really like all of the symbolism into, like, sort of the gestation of a baby in the womb, and then being born, and like at the end when the water comes into the capsule with the water breaking. Like, I like all that, but again, it's very obvious. It's actually it's not done with any light hand at all. But it is better than I remember. I will say I enjoyed it more than I remember. The fact that I've had maybe 7 or 8 years now to stew on that Mufasa moment, I was able to sort of get over that and appreciate it more for what it was. Also, I remember George Clooney's character leaving the film a lot earlier. He's actually around for a good 30-40 minutes before he eventually goes. So I did like that we saw more of him there at the start. And also I went into it knowing what it was this time.
Yeah, I think that's possibly the movie sets out its stall in the wrong way, and that. I mean, to be honest, I liked it the first time I saw it, but I was the same with you, where I was kind of like, okay, Cuarón does like visual metaphor and symbolism really, really well. Like I don't think the metaphor that he's discussing with the movie is particularly complex. It's this woman is being reborn through this arduous process that she's going through, and she's just rediscovering her relationship with her daughter, and like learning what that means to her and how much she actually cares about it. And it's it's a functional metaphor, and it works perfectly for the purposes of like what is kind of a schmaltzy kind of action movie. But I think the thing that rubbed me the wrong way is kind of like you said, when the movie kind of has ideas above its station of being like, it's super realistic, we're doing new stuff here, man. It's like, you're not. Like, no one's going to criticize Independence Day when they upload a virus to the mother computer with a Windows computer, because Independence Day is a stupid movie and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. But like when a movie is like, but check this out, bro, and then falls back on Sandra Bullock using a fire extinguisher to fire herself across space while in orbit of another planet. It's like, there are mathematicians who have to study for 30 years to get these kind of calculations right on things that are the size of like tower blocks, and you're just going to do it with a fire extinguisher and eyeballing the port of the thing you're trying to get to. No, Sandra Bullock, is what I say to you. Exactly.
But I will say that the tension that's there in space films when you are cut adrift, like that's sort of, it's almost like the huge musical note in a horror film. It's gonna, like, the tension is always there of being cut adrift in space. It's the same, like, for me anyway, whenever I'm out on the open sea on a ferry or in a boat, I have the same fear of falling into the water. Like, being cut adrift from humanity in the water or in space has an inbuilt tension, which I think this type of film has all the time. So maybe that was carrying a lot of the weight as well. But yeah, that's Gravity. I feel better than I used to. I still wouldn't say that. I don't personally still think it was deserving of all the praise it got, but I think I'm at the point now where I can say to myself without thinking I'm lying, it's a good film.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I enjoyed it. I'm just in a punchy mood today, so I'm just honing in on the negatives. But I think I would stand with you on that. Now I'm gonna go into the best of the bunch for the movies I watched this week. And when I tell you that this is far and away the favourite movie of mine this week, it will give you an idea of the kind of quality for the rest of the movies. This is 1986's Chopping Mall.
Chopping Mall?
Chopping Mall. So, I'll tell you, I'll set the stage for you, dear listeners, and Anthony as well. Imagine that there's a mall, right? And they want to make, I didn't look up the state, but they basically want to make this mall the most secure mall in like the Pennsylvania area or something like that. What's the solution? You guessed it. They're going to put robot guards in the mall. They're controlled by a computer on top of the roof, and they're these little kind of like, they're on like treadmill, what are they called? Like tank treads. And they have like lasers and claws and stuff like that. And they're basically, the whole premise is that at some point, wouldn't you know it, the computer on the roof gets struck by lightning, the robots go insane, and the teens, the unassuming teens who are having a party after hours in the mattress store in the shopping mall.
Did they stay after? Did they hide?
They stayed after hours.
Hide on the beds.
They brought like three guys and 3 girls. They brought their girlfriends in to have a party with some booze in the mattress store after hours. They get locked in with the murderous robot. Oh no!
Oh
no! And it's just the dumbest thing I've seen in a while. This movie is pretty good. Like, I mean, not in any kind of Not in any technical sense. I'll
Yeah,
say.
Not in any way you would hear a different podcast saying that it was good, but
No, but I love movies I like movies like this that just have no illusion. This is kind of like the other end of the spectrum in some ways from Gravity. Like, this movie is under no illusions about what it is. It's just like, you know what? We're gonna be a movie where some teens get killed, and in interesting ways, and that's basically all there is to show for it. But there are some great lines in it. I've got them written down here just because I knew people want to ask.
I'm looking forward to these.
There's a bit in the movie after a couple of there's like some, I don't know why, but they're wearing like lab coats. I guess they're scientists. They're like monitoring the robots.
But lab coats mean scientists, 100%.
Yeah, so they're probably scientists. But they don't notice the robots sneak up on them. They kill them. So they're the first ones to go. Spoilers for Shopping Mall for those who want to see it. But I mean, those guys were obviously going to go first. But eventually it gets down to the 3 guys and their 3 girlfriends, and they have to defend themselves. So they go to a sporting goods store called Peckinpah's, which is obviously a reference that some of our listeners will enjoy. Is a reference to Sam Peckinpah, because they're about to go and get a bunch of guns, and do a wild bunch. And they come out of Peckinpah's and they're all like tooled up. They got like shotguns and M4s, and one of them just has a 44 Magnum and a tank of propane, which is I mean, it comes in handy. I'm not going to say how, but it's just really funny seeing all of them. Like, they're all like geared up, and then one of them's just holding a tank of propane. Like, this will come in handy. Don't worry about this. And the guy who I thought was the lead, but spoilers, he does not turn out to be the lead. He ends up dying in a hilarious way by crashing a kind of golf cart into one of the robots. It explodes, and then it cuts to a wide shot of the golf cart exploding, and his body, which is clearly a dummy that is not him, on the floor, like in the foreground, just like bursts into flame. But when they turn up with guns, he utters the immortal line, "Let's send those fuckers a Rambo-gram." Is
this the Patrick Swayze lookalike?
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, what a hunk. Absolute hunk. That feathered 80s hair, that was a look that I wish would come back.
That's like what my son's hair is like that, because he's got curly hair and his fringe hasn't come in yet, so he's properly got the mullet going on.
That coiffured look. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. It also features a moment which made me absolutely burst out laughing, which is one of the few surviving female characters. Is like being comforted at one point after a lot of characters have died, and she tearfully and without a shred of irony utters the line, "I guess I'm just not used to being chased around a mall in the middle of the night by killer robots," which is it's just great stuff. It is great stuff. So yeah, I mean, it does what it says on the tin. 1986's Shopping Mall. If you're in the mood for something really stupid, that's a good movie. I enjoyed it very much.
That sounds unbelievable. And I'm looking at the poster here, and let's just say, listeners, the title is written in blood.
Oh yeah,
that's all we need to know. There's gonna be blood. I love the fact that they go into a sporting goods store and they come out with guns. Can you imagine making this film in the UK or Ireland? It's like you go into the store. It's like, what do we get a cricket bat?
You get Shaun of the Dead basically. You'd have to get a cricket bat and make do essentially.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, when you said it was called Shopping Mall, I assumed this was going to be a zombies in a mall film.
No, I mean, I think it was. The title card is like a severed hand holding like a gift bag with a severed head peeking out from a hole in the bag. So I mean, it does feel like it's trying to cash in on that. I guess this would be like Dawn of the Dead, or actually it's later than Dawn of the Dead. It would almost be Day of the Dead era kind of schlock. But it's great stuff. I miss when horror movies were like this. To be honest, this is right up my alley.
These days, actually, a lot of horror movies are just the same sort of thing. You know what I mean? You don't really get just someone going out on a limb and making something completely different. I suppose. It was still very similar, but it was A Quiet Place was a little bit of a different style. Yeah,
I think that A Quiet Place was quite serious. I really liked.
Yeah, very serious.
I think it's like schlock. The problem that with modern horror movies that I have is that schlock. So the stuff that was really cheesy and really tacky, and it was basically like we're gonna get some nudity, we're gonna get some good kills, and that's gonna be all this, and it's gonna be a ludicrous concept. That has kind of been appropriated by the like Sharknado and Megalodon versus Killer Croc or whatever. Like they kind of got in on the joke in a way that I really don't find funny anymore, because they're like deliberately making them badly. Whereas this they weren't trying to make a bad movie with this. They just did, and that's what makes it it so good. But yeah, I miss movies like this. I mean, they're still here, obviously, but it was good fun.
Yeah, I actually want to watch that now. That sounds hilarious. All right,
okay.
Are you ready to go for a double yet, or you want to wait till later for your double?
So what kind of double are we talking?
Because I've only got 3, whereas you got 4. So
that's right. Yeah. Okay. I tell you what. Give me. Let me do one more, and then you do your double.
No. You have to do a double.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's how maths works. Expose to the listeners my inability.
We should have like the tune that plays every time the maths goes over your head.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do. Yeah, that's right. Maths. I'm a man of words. All right. I'll do the other one that I thought was okay this week, and I might piss some people off with this opinion. To be honest, this was the first time I'd ever seen this movie. It passed me by when it came out, and it's become like one of those movies that everyone loves. And I feel kind of bad for the fact that I only thought it was okay. That's 2004's Mean Girls, which released on Netflix in the UK this week, I think, or the week before. And it wasn't bad. It was funny enough. It just didn't grab me in the same way that a lot of movies from maybe slightly earlier in like the kind of late 90s and early 2000s grabbed me. So, you know, it didn't have that same kind of hold as, I don't know, Clueless or 10 Things I Hate About You.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you watched it at the wrong time in your life.
Yeah, it might be that.
I think Mean Girls is one of those films where you have to be in school or in uni or in that sort of atmosphere where you watch it and everyone goes in and quotes it for 3 months. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even go
like
here.
An Anchorman or something like that.
Yeah, like it is a film which breeds quotes, and like it's like Step Brothers or like something like that. You need to have. I think you need to have that sort of couple of months of everyone's just using the same quote over and over again. That's the sort of film this is for me. Yeah. I have fond memories of it for that reason, but I can understand why watching it as like a man in your 30s with like, you're just like
pushed down my nose, just like
it's pretty funny, but I think I understand.
Yeah, I think a nostalgia. Like, I mean, it's not to be clear, it's not a bad movie. Like, I thought it was pretty good, but I was kind of going in expecting this to be like how I feel about Clueless or 10 Things I Hate About You or like other. I mean, it's not even really a rom-com, so it's not really fair to kind of compare it.
It's just an out-and-out comedy.
Yeah, it's just a comedy, really.
Written by Tina Fey.
Yeah, and like Tina Fey does a lot of good work in this actually. Like she gets a lot of the best laughs. And I think Rachel McAdams is great as well in this. Like she is one of the standout actresses and characters. But it was a good time. But I found it a little bit unremarkable. I feel like I needed that nostalgia to really hit me the way that this seemed to hit other people back in 2004.
Yeah, I would say that looking back on it now, I have nostalgia for the film because of that. But I don't think it was funny at the time for nostalgic reasons. I think it was funny at the time because it bred quotes. Yeah. It's like one of those films that breeds quotes in a friend group, and then
I'm still waiting for the kids to get back on board the Ace Ventura train so I can.
I love Ace Ventura.
I haven't watched those movies in a solid 20 years, but I still occasionally will think about the bit where he does the slinky down the temple stairs. That joke is still funny, I think. Like,
this is
incredible.
It's just so good. The man came out of a rhinoceros's butthole. Like you can't write that. It's gold.
Yeah, that's comedy gold. I daren't go back to them for fear that I don't like them anymore. But they hold a very special place in my heart. Those movies, and maybe that's the same for Mean Girls for people slightly younger than me. Maybe.
I just said you can't write that.
Yeah.
Now I'm just going to take a little. I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent here, right? Because we're both sports fans. Do you chuckle into yourself every time like a football commentator, like when say a team like comes from behind and wins the league or whatever? If a commentator goes, "You couldn't write this," do you chuckle to yourself? Like, really? I just watched a film about a robot that went back in time and eventually turned into a good guy. Like, I think you can write this.
You clearly haven't seen Remember the Titans because like that's literally the plot plot of a lot of those kind of sporting dramas. My favorite, very very tangentially related, like movie thing that gets quoted in sport a lot is when a minnow or an underdog beats like the favorite, and the commentators will always go, "They haven't read the script at all today," and it's just like, it's great stuff. It's one of my favorite where sport and film meet. That's my wheelhouse.
I will say, as an Australian, no, this is a real tangent. We'll get back on the movies in a minute, guys. But as an Australian, moving over when I was 12, and then started watching, like, when I moved to Northern Ireland, obviously we still have the UK TV, so I'm watching a lot of the English commentators and English pundits in cricket and football and stuff, and I'm watching, like, especially the cricket in the Ashes when they're versing Australia, and I'm watching these guys, these English pundits, and they were absolute dickheads. Like, I just couldn't get over how biased they were towards England.
That's traditional. If England are ever losing in any kind of sporting event, the halftime show is the commentators unilaterally agreeing that the other side is cheating in some way.
It's absolutely great. Like, I was watching recently one of the commentators going off about, like, this referee couldn't do this, and I'm like, yeah, but last week you were arguing the opposite. You're just as bad, mate. All right. Movies. Yeah,
okay, so Mean Girls, it's a pretty good movie. It's the first time I've seen it. I think I was slightly underwhelmed by it, but maybe I watched it at the wrong time in my life. Anthony, hit us with one. Bring us back in. Bring us back to the golden land of good movies, if possible.
Okay. So I'm going to stick with comedy, I think. Okay. I'm going to stick with comedy. This is the only film I watched this week that I hadn't seen before. Okay. And it is from 2020. So I'm glad that I was able to get it in, because I to be honest with you, Konrad, I think because of this whole global pandemic, I'm going to have a real hole in my movie knowledge from this last 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas
it's really hard to follow. Like, I find it's really hard to follow, like, what's coming out anymore, because cinema releases aren't a thing, really.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas Emma and I would have went to the cinema once or twice a week, and that's like at least 52 films a year we'd be watching. Whereas now it's, you know, if I see a new film from this year, it's a real rarity for me, to be honest with you. Yeah. So it was 2020's. I can't wait to tell you what this is. 2020's My Spy, starring Dave Bautista.
This isn't what I thought you were going to say, but I've not seen this, but I've actually heard it's quite good.
So I'm going through a whole process in my mind, Konrad, with the Culture Cave and with the way I review things. Yeah. Because I genuinely can see the good stuff in most things I watch. Like, there's nothing you watch that's valueless, right? Yeah. So I have to really rein myself in when talking about a film like this. Okay. Because I genuinely really enjoyed it. Having said that, is it doing anything new? No. Is it doing anything impressive? No. Is it good fun? Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I was looking up the IMDb, like, user reviews, and someone gave it 5 out of 10, and they said this. I couldn't agree with this more, right?
Yeah.
I'll buy the book. Super Spy meets Little Girl with Hot Mum movie.
Classic. It's a tale as old as time.
So basically the film, and it's also directed by Naked Gun 33 and a third director, Peter Siegel.
I thought the Zucker brothers directed all of the Naked Gun movies, but apparently, Peter Siegel took the helm for the third one. And I mean, I like Naked Gun. Like, talking about Fred Ward last week or week before in our monster movies. Fred Ward was the bad guy in Naked Gun 33 and a third. So, you know, you've got a benchmark for quality there. And he also, I'm going to admit this to our listeners, he directed Nutty Professor 2: The Clumps, which I think is quite a funny movie.
Yeah, it is funny. It is funny.
Like, I know that's probably not a popular opinion these days.
That was before Eddie Murphy dropped off a cliff. But so basically the story of this film, My Spy, is a story of, like, a super spy who is a former army veteran who works for the CIA, and he's put into a sort of surveillance role where he has to look after into a surveillance role where he has to sort of basically just spy on this woman and her daughter, because the woman's ex-partner is involved in something, right? So it's that sort of thing. Now, unbeknownst to him, the little girl that in the family, who is played by Chloe Coleman, and she is absolutely brilliant. These type of films really are contingent on how good your child actor is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, how good your child actor is, and the second thing is the chemistry between the lead and the child actor.
Yeah, you need to, and I bet Dave Bautista plays a badass with a heart of gold like no other.
I'll tell you what. I started watching this. I said to Dave, I think I'll watch this because I want to see if Dave can actually be a leading man.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't know if I'm sold on that. But he did a good job. He didn't lose me. You know what I mean? He did a good job.
I don't think I've seen him as a lead in anything. I don't think I have. He's always been he's been good as like a character actor from what I've seen of him. But...
He's in a film with Kumail Nanjiani, isn't he? I think he is. I didn't see that one either though. But he is in a film. But anyways. But it all is based and hinges around this relationship, and it is one that worked. And I think it worked because of how good this young actress is. She's really good. Really, I don't know. Just she seemed to like the character. The character's really switched on. Like the thing is that Dave Bautista's character, who's called JJ, didn't realize is that they put cameras in the apartment, and straight away she found them all, and she just took out the chip from the camera, read the serial number, typed it in Google, found out what it was, and then was able to go into her. She was like, all right, well, they're spying on us. Clearly they're connected to the Wi-Fi. So she went and found out from the Wi-Fi where they were.
Nice.
So then she just shows up at their door and goes, she's filming them with her camera, syncing it to the cloud. She goes, what's going on here?
I bet Dave wasn't happy about that one. Excuse me, JJ wasn't happy about that one.
If JJ wasn't happy, that's the thing, is that she then started getting JJ to have to, like, he would say, no, you have to do this for me. You know, you have to come down to the park and like take me ice skating because I have to go and hang out with the popular girls. So because she had this over him, like he all of a sudden became involved in her life, and it. As the person on IMDb said, it is the typical by the book super spy meets little girl movie.
You know exactly what plot beats you're getting out of this movie. Like there's gonna be an argument. I'm gonna say about 50 minutes in where one of those two walks away from the action, and then they have to come back again like 20 minutes later to save the day.
Yeah, and like the lead that Dave is in terms of his CIA style, it's full of cliche. It's full of tropes. There's nothing new going on, but I will say I like his style. Like at the start of the film, it's really some of that Naked Gun 33 and a third coming into it, actually, because at the start of the film he's like he's undercover as like a Russian, and he's putting on a Russian accent, and like all of like the CIA operatives, including Kristen Schaal, who's in this as well, great bit of comic relief in a comedy film, you know what I mean? But they're hanging around, and they're like, oh my god, and the terrorist is like, that Russian accent is terrible, you're a spy, and he's like, no, I'm not. That's not a spy, right? And then they're all sitting there going, oh my god, he's rumbled. Oh my god, he's rumbled, right? And they're like, no, he's not. He's going to be good. No, I'm not. That's not a spy, right? And then they're all sitting there going, oh my god, he's rumbled. Oh my god, he's rumbled, right? And they're like, no, he's not. He's going to be good. And then it goes back to him, and Dave Bautista just goes, all right, you got me. He's in the middle of like 20 terrorists, and he's just like, you got me. Oh, I'm getting used to this spy stuff, right? And then he goes, you know, but the thing is, I could kick your ass, and they're all like, all of them start laughing, and he just takes a gun out, shoots a tank which explodes, takes out 2 grenades, throws them at 2 cars, and he's killed everyone within 10 seconds. Right?
So he's not a traditional spy. He's not
a traditional. He's a do things his own way type guy. But I will also say, I could talk about this film all day because it's the exact sort of film that really gets me out of bed, because it's literally it's not taking itself seriously in a different way than the one you were talking about. What's that one called again?
Chopping Mall.
Chopping Mall. It's not the same type of not taking itself seriously. It is leading into trope zone. It's leading into cliche. But I will say it has the best. How absurd is this? It has the best reference to Notting Hill I've ever seen in a film.
Okay. Okay, that's not the movie I thought you were going to mention there.
Like,
what reference does it hit?
At the start, when he's doing literally right at the start of the film, right? When he's doing his Russian accent, the terrorist has a gun on him, right? And he's like, you're a spy, you're a spy. And he goes, I'm just a guy standing in front of another guy, asking him not to shoot him.
That's a strange cut.
Yeah.
For like to reference a romantic comedy, a British romantic comedy from 20 years ago.
But they knew people wouldn't get it, so later in the film, Dave Bautista's sitting watching Notting Hill, and that moment's on the screen.
Oh, okay, great. There you go. If you have to put in another moment in your story to explain the joke or the reference you made, maybe it shouldn't have been.
You can imagine like that they've shot the thing. They're like, "Oh, that's gold," and then the producers are like, "You've got to explain that."
Yeah, what? No one knows what Notting Hill is anymore. Like the kids aren't watching Richard Curtis movies.
Yeah, I will say one thing I noticed, and you know, we'll not dwell on this, but one thing I really noticed is that I really like the way that Hollywood's going in terms of the inclusivity and the casting as well as everything else. Because let me say, this is the type of film 20 years ago, 10 years ago even, everyone would be white, and there would be like one black character who would be the comic, like the real like over the top comic relief. That's the way it would have been.
Yeah.
In this film, it's kind of the opposite. Christian Charles is the only really prominent there all the time character who's white. And she's sort of the buffoon, but not really. She has a heart as well, but she is, and every other character is from a different ethnicity. And I thought to myself, I didn't realize that until like 2/3 through, and I was like, well, this is how far we've come. I'm loving it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and these are like, you know, they're not necessarily like the best roles, but there's absolutely no reason why it's a common argument I see that you know, people should be writing like really good roles for non-white actors. It's like that standard doesn't apply for white actors. You can be in any old shit as a white actor, and I think, you know, this proves that point to a certain extent. Like, you know,
also it's even more important in a film like this because this is the type of film which young impressionable people are going to be watching.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Well, that's really cool. And interestingly enough, Chloe Coleman is in the Avatar sequel, which will come out at some point in the next 20 years, apparently.
I did see that, and I was wondering if that was sort of like what James Cameron did with Sam Worthington, where he cast him. Because obviously I can imagine Chloe Coleman was cast in Avatar 2 like 7 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So like, remember Sam Worthington was cast in Avatar, and then whenever everyone heard, geez, this guy's going to be in Avatar, he's never been in anything before, and then he started getting signed up by everything.
Yeah,
and then Avatar came out.
Terrible actor.
Yeah, Avatar came out and like he got away with it in Avatar because it's set so far in the future. It's possible that he would have a mixed accent. He would have a mixed accent.
He did the voice work in one of the Call of Duty games, and he was also in that Terminator movie with Christian Bale, Salvation, I think that one was called, and he was awful in both. And like, he's one of those characters or one of those actors who should just never be allowed to even attempt an American accent because he's so obviously Australian.
I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say Dave Bautista would do a better job at an Australian accent than Sam Worthington does at an American.
Yeah, I think so. I'll be interested to see what happens with Sam Worthington in those Avatar films, because I feel like James Cameron or Jim Cameron might have hitched himself to the wrong horse with
at least his face won't be in it anymore. At least
they'll do a Poochie needed to go back to his home planet like replacement of Sam Worthington 10 minutes into that movie and replace him with like Timothy Chalamet or like someone else who people actually like.
Jake Sully. Yeah. All right.
That's cool though. That sounds like a good movie. My Spy. You know what you're getting. And what you're getting sounds like it's pretty decent, which is all you can ask for in these trying times.
That's all, exactly.
Speaking of movies that do the bare minimum in a really, really kind of roundabout and sort of functional way, I watched the first of two movies from 2021 on my list, so I'm going to hit you with a double now. This is the better of the two. It's not awful, but it's also about as generic as you could possibly get, and that's... I don't actually know how to pronounce his name, but it's Rick Roman Waz, Greenland, starring Gerard Butler. Came out last week on Amazon Prime. It's a disaster movie. It's about a comet hitting the Earth. It's... When you think about a movie which is essentially about a family trying to get across America or get north to catch a plane to Greenland, where the last remnants of the human race are going to go underground to survive this like extinction level event. It is that movie. It has bits where man is the real monster, and then it also has moments where they're running through or they're driving through like a forest while little bits of the comet rain down on them. It's fine. It's not too like it doesn't do anything particularly interesting. Gerard Butler's quite good in it. It's great to see the co-lead, the mother in the family. They're like estranged, but it's played by Marina Baccarin, who I know from Firefly and Serenity. And David Denman makes an appearance, who you'll probably know as Pam's ex from the US version of The Office. Yeah. He shows up as a kind of, well, he shows up as a bad guy. I'm not going to spoil what he does, but it's a kind. I don't really like describing movies as this because I feel like it undermines a lot of the hard work that went into making the movie, but it is kind of a switch off your brain and be a little bit entertained for an hour and a half kind of movie. There isn't really enough destruction for my money for what is essentially a disaster movie. There's really only one scene where the comet's falling directly impacts the couple that we are following, and for that reason it lacks any real sort of peril or tension to them.
Right.
And also, so they start, like, Gerard Butler and Marina Baccarin's characters start estranged, and naturally you would expect that to entail in the movie a arc where basically he's cheated on her, we find out throughout the movie, because their relationship hit the rocks, but then they get selected for this government program that is basically like putting humans into these bunkers, and they get rejected at the plane because his son has diabetes, and it starts this whole odyssey where they need to get across the country to get to the bunker themselves. And you would, with that knowledge of how the kind of family has broken up, you would assume that there would be some kind of arc for his character where he goes through some kind of tribulation and trial to prove that he loves this family and he cares about this family, and I don't want to say the character is like, you expect the character to be punished, but you expect the character to kind of go through something to get his family there, and there really isn't anything. Like, he gets his arm burnt a bit at one point, but he sort of, you get to the end of the movie, and I'm not going to say what happens at the end of the movie, but it's sort of just like, okay, you haven't really earned any of this, to be honest.
You wanted to have a little bit more of Tom Cruise in War of the Worlds.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's not a great disaster movie either, but it's probably a little bit better than this one. But I mean, with that said, it's one of Butler's better recent movies, which I know is not saying that much, but it's passable. It's passable as far as modern disaster movies go, of which there aren't that many good ones, I think.
Well, I was playing video games the other night with my brother, and he, in the background, his wife, my sister-in-law, was watching a film. I didn't hear what the film was, but I explained the plot to me, and I said, "Oh, is it Deep Impact?" And my brother goes, "No, it's not Deep Impact. It was probably this."
It probably was this, yeah. It's very similar. It's about a comet or a sequel. I don't know what is the difference. You're a man of science. What's the difference between a comet, an asteroid, and a meteor?
That's something that is confined to books.
Oh, okay, fine. I was like, everyone makes a point of calling this a comet, and I was like, I don't actually know what the difference between those three things is.
To be honest with you, I don't either. I honestly, okay. and I've never actually thought about caring. Maybe
find Haley.
I don't think everyone would. I think the initial reaction for everyone would be it's to do with the size, but I don't think it is. It might be like to do with origin or where they come from or what they orbit. I'm not sure.
I feel like maybe because this seems to be lots of little bits of rock that, like, are the size of football stadiums that cause massive impacts. And I will actually say,
pretty big bits of rock.
Well, yeah, but we're talking in planetary scales here. So there's nothing. But so maybe that's what a comet is, like lots of pieces. I will say
broken off something. Yeah.
The first 20 minutes of this movie, they do actually get the tension really good. Get the tension really good. My word's not good today, apparently. They do the tension really well. So it's a shame that the rest of the film doesn't really live up to that. But there's this bit where everyone's gathered around the television to watch bits of the comet fall into what they think is going to be the Atlantic Ocean. And then it doesn't fall into the Atlantic Ocean. It hits Tampa, and everyone's like, "Oh!" And all the I wonder if they would do this in real life actually. But the news crew are like, "We're going live now to Tampa." It's just like. It's like on fire, just like the city is just gone.
They would. The news would definitely do that.
Yeah.
Was it put across like there was real? I was talking to Ibra about this the other day. Actually, it's on topic. News anchors. If you're a news anchor, how many times a week do you think you'll get the call from a film studio saying, "Here, could you do this, 1 minute bit for us because we needed it for our film"? Yeah.
Like someone get Wolf Blitzer on the phone too, like in Mission Impossible Fallout.
New York it's a great burns.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it this week? Aliens? Okay, fine, I've got it. Like it's there's sadly I can't remember the name of the actor who does it, but there's sadly no character in this like Jeff Goldblum's boss in Independence Day. That's twice I've mentioned Independence Day in a single podcast now. It's not even a movie I particularly like. But the guy with like the really gravelly voice is like, I need to go and phone my mother. That guy. Like there's
his name's oh no, sorry. I was gonna say his name's David, but no, he keeps going David. That's Goldblum's character.
Yeah, I wish there was a character. That is exactly what this movie needed, was just a little bit more levity to it. Like because it takes itself so seriously, and it's like, you're making a disaster movie, guys. There needs to be a little bit of cheese to this. It's
that guy is also the fella from Mrs. Doubtfire who actually makes over Robin Williams.
Yeah. That's a great voice, but I feel like you're kind of pigeonholed once you've got a voice like that. You're in the Bobcat Goldthwait like region where you can only do very very specific roles. But yes, that's Greenland. It's fine. I can't really say anything kinder than that about it. It's very generic. It's very by the numbers. It does what it sets out to do pretty competently, but what it sets out to do is pretty unambitious and a little bit boring in parts. But still, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen.
Awesome.
Speaking of awful things, were you going to add something at the end there?
No.
Okay.
I'm ready for the next.
Okay, so another movie from 2021. This is a Swedish movie. I thought, you know what? What we're missing is some European cinema on this podcast, so I'm going to go.
I saw a Swedish movie that came out in 2021 that I wanted to watch, and I didn't watch it yet. Maybe it's that.
Well, so this is Red Dot.
Yes,
directed by Elaine Darborg and starring I don't know them off the top of my head, Nana Blondell and Anastasios Soulis. Okay, so this is essentially I Know What You Did Last Summer mixed with Deliverance. Okay, but it's not as scary or as interesting as either of those movies, and I don't particularly like either of those movies. So essentially, and I don't mind saying this because it's kind of part of the problem with the movie. A Swedish couple, the relationship's a little bit on the rocks. They decide to get away together to the north of Sweden. They check into their hotel. Everyone seems a bit weird and racist because the wife is mixed race, I think. And they get that kind of like, oh, we're in the country now vibes, like, no one's that friendly here.
Big summer blowout.
Exactly, yeah. And they announce loudly to the room full of racists that they're going to be spending a night completely isolated camping further north before going to bed, and then they go camping, I think they key the car of some people that they assume to be that they know to be racist, as they're going further north, and then basically push comes to shove and they're hunted across the northern wilderness of Sweden by presumably these kind of racist hillbillies, or whatever the Swedish equivalent of hillbillies are. And it's just like, it's so fucking dumb and bad in every way. So I think the writing is poor. I struggle to criticize the writing of foreign language movies because obviously it could be the fault of the translation, so I don't want to completely rake that over the coals. But the acting, it just never sells anything to me. Like, both of the main lead characters are so thoroughly unlikable that it's like, I don't care about either of you, and if you die, there's a bit where, so like during the preamble, which is also way too long. Like, the movie takes like 40 minutes before they actually get to the bit where they're being hunted. We establish early on that the male partner is really into playing the Battlefield video game series, and that comes back when they're being shot at, because he says, oh, I know what kind of gun it is. I know how long it's going to take him to reload and how many rounds he has in each clip. Which is that's really stupid, because it's just like you playing Battlefield does not equip you with that kind of knowledge of real life guns.
Chekhov's video game knowledge.
Yeah, exactly.
Never seen it.
Chekhov's video game. And secondly, it doesn't even work. So it's like he just ends up getting shot, and it's like, what was the point in any of that? Like, there's no point in the 10-minute scene of him playing a video game to establish that he knows this, only for it to not work. Just cut all of that out of this movie. It's so stupid. And there's just like loads of stuff like that in this. There's no tension whatsoever. It's not enough of a horror to be scary. It's not enough of a thriller to really be thrilling anyway. And the lead, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I mentioned the Evil Dead remake to you, and how there's a character in that who takes a ludicrous amount of punishment, and it becomes incredibly funny how fucked up that character is and is still alive. And this is like the other side of that, where the male lead, it just keeps on getting shot and putting his arm in bear traps and all sorts, and it's not schlocky. There's no gore to make it interesting. We don't know anything about this character other than he's slightly unlikable, so I don't feel any sympathy for him. And then there's a big reveal about 2/3 of the way through the movie as to why they are being hunted, and it's like, without giving anything away, it's not the reason that you thought it was. They've done something in their past that has inspired this ire. But unlike I Know What You Did Last Summer or something like that, where it's like, right, they hit a guy with a car, bang, there we go, we've established it. 5 minutes, that's all you need to establish they've done something. They spend like half an hour going through what happened and the ramifications of what they did to the family that they did it to, and this is coming at like the climax of the movie. Like we've reached the zenith of the movie. Like the tension is supposed to be at boiling point. It isn't at boiling point, but it's supposed to be at boiling point, and they're like, let's just take a second here, guys. Let's take a half an hour sojourn into a fucking callback to something you haven't seen. We're gonna do a flashback, and it just completely screws up the pacing of the movie. It's so badly made. This.
That's really interesting because it's only 86 minutes long, so it literally could have just been a short film by the sounds of it.
Like I mean, well, the problem, the thing I think that's the really big problem with it. It's funny actually that it's 86 minutes long, because if you'd have told me this was a 3-hour movie, I would have believed you. Is that like the actual kind of core plot points are very rote, which is not always a bad thing. You know, it's like something doesn't have to be original to be good. But, you know, couple does something wrong, has some darkness in their past. They go through a process of being hunted and essentially punished on screen in order to make up for this wrongdoing. By the end of it, because through the performances and through the writing, we have some pathos for them, and we are actually wanting them to survive, and because we feel like they've done enough to pay for their sins. And I just never felt that with this. I was like, by the end of it, I was like, I don't care, just everyone die. Like, who cares about any of these characters? So yeah, I cannot in good conscience recommend this movie. It was boring and overlong, despite being under 90 minutes and doing nothing original or interesting as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, maybe I will give it a miss then. I actually, that is on my list. I will remove it from there.
I mean, I'd be interested. Maybe you'll feel differently about it. Maybe we can do a retrospective and you'll watch it and be like, actually, I loved it.
Yeah, I actually loved it. I will say that before you revealed that possibly the racism wasn't the issue, it's interesting because my mind went to, well, it's nice that they made it realistic, because by keying the car. If this happened in real life and they keyed the car, and then they went and got murdered and killed by this racist mob, because she keyed the car, there would be a lot of people who'd be like, actually, that's a criminal offense. They got it. It was all. It doesn't matter why they killed them.
It was all justified. Yeah.
They had it coming to them. You know.
Yeah, I think I won't get too much into spoiler territory on it, but the fact when it's revealed that it's not what you think it is, like by that point in the movie, they have killed people because they believe they are being hunted by them, and that's never addressed. It's just like, and I feel like, you know how in
shit happens.
So like Back to the Future is one of your favorite movies, right? I'm gonna reference something in Back to the Future. You know the bit like Biff Tannen's friends. We don't really ever know anything about them, but we're happy to laugh at them when the dump truck full of shit gets emptied onto the car because the movie has done a good job of being like, look, we're not going to spend a lot of time with these characters, but you get the gist of it. They're dicks. They deserve.
There's the bullies gang, like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the kind of tone you need to strike if you're going to have your main characters off a bunch of racists who actually turns out aren't doing anything wrong, which is essentially like, I mean, they were racist, they probably deserve to die, but if you're gonna play they're racist, so we're just gonna kill them off card, it needs to be done with at least a little bit of humor.
Tongue in cheek.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise it's like, that's a bit monstrous what you did there, to be honest. Like, they were shitty people, but they probably didn't deserve to have their heads beaten in. And it just doesn't get that at all.
That doesn't match up with Sweden's criminal reform system.
Swedes, get in touch. Let us know in the comments below. But yeah, so Red Dot, I really dislike this movie very, very profoundly.
Okay, interesting. Good to know. I'm not going to watch it then. My last film this week, we don't have to spend too long on it because I think we have referenced it before, but I just watched it, so we'll talk about it. Sure. And that was Forrest Gump.
Oh, Robert Zemeckis. Talk about him again.
Well, actually, just talk about Back to the Future. Yeah, so Forrest Gump is the film that you would think, the fact that I named my second son Forrest, you would think that this would be the ire of my existence, because anytime someone asks what my son's name is, all they can think of is this film. But on the contrary, I actually love this film, and I don't think I honestly don't think that, like, we didn't name our son after Forrest Gump, but I also don't think that the character of Forrest Gump is someone to be annoyed that people think you did. You know, yes, he isn't very clever, but he's a man with a lot of heart, and it's I just love this film. I love. We talked about it before. This genre of, like, sort of a fake fictional biopic where the person literally seems to live about 84 lives in the one. Like, in this film, he, you know, goes to the Vietnam War, he plays college football, he's a ping pong world champion.
Does he, like, invent Apple computers or something in this? I can't remember.
He's the one who caught the spies going around the Watergate offices for the Nixon thing. He also he also, like, became really famous because he was running around all the time for like 10 months straight or something. What else did he do? He's really rich because he created the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. Yeah. Like, it's just
he invented the smiley T-shirts as well.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
shit happens T-shirts.
It's just so much. He spoke at the anti-Vietnam War rally or whatever it was. It's just, I absolutely love this film, and it's one of those films which, like, doesn't let you sit. No. Actually, I say that there's so much happens in this film, but it still has time to give you those moments with that really melodic, you know, da 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 da. It gives you time to sit and reflect at points.
Yeah.
Not to mention, he also taught Elvis how to dance.
I don't remember that bit from this, but I believe it's in there.
Elvis comes and stays with them, and he teaches. Like, he's still got his braces on when he's a child. Yeah. And he's, like, waddling about, and that's how Elvis dances.
So I mean, I think the thing that I really, I admittedly I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but the thing I really like about this movie, and I feel like this is one of those movies that's been parodied and memed to the point where people assume it's kind of a really cheesy movie a lot of the time, I think. And it is to a certain extent, but it's cheesy in a good way. You know, this is kind of like Americana, the movie. It's like, here's a 50-year slice of notable events in American history delivered through this man's experiences. And that on its own is an interesting idea. But I think the thing that really made this movie exceptional to me is Tom Hanks bringing so much to the character, so that you're rooting for him so much throughout this movie, and there's such tragedy in his life, and like the fact that he is still so optimistic in the face of all the pain and all the horror that he's seen is really touching, I think. I think it's Tom Hanks is one of those actors who I feel like doesn't get that much. He doesn't get talked about as much anymore because he's less of a leading man these days. But there was a stretch there in the mid-90s between this, like, Green Mile, Road to Petition,
Castaway.
Castaway, and even, you know, the rom-com stuff like Sleepless in Seattle and less so You've Got Mail, but where he was just churning out amazing performances, just movie after movie, and this is an absolute phenomenal one. I think I really loved this movie growing up.
Yeah, he's so do I, and he's just like a puppy dog, but that sounds like it's really offensive to people who are not gifted intellectually. But it's this character and his personality and the way he is. I would not be surprised if they said to him, "Play this film as if you're Jenny's loyal dog." You know what I mean? Like, he's so loyal. He's so full of honesty, and he's stupid is as stupid does, sir. You know, he's just such a great character. The moment where Lieutenant Dan kicks the women out of the room because they called him stupid, and, like, the relationship between those two, it's just absolutely classic.
Yeah, and you know, he just exponentially improves the life of everyone that he meets and touches. And it's just a really touching film as a result. I haven't seen it for a long time, but I loved it as a kid growing up, and the sort of doomed romance with Jenny, never fails to bring a tear to the eye.
Yeah, I know. Every time it cut away to what she was doing in her life, I just was like, "Oh, jeez, come on, Jenny, pull yourself together." She's such a lost soul, you know.
Yeah, she is. I believe played by Robin Wright as well. Which,
and I'm really sorry to Robin Wright. Can I say, everyone, I'm really sorry, Robin Wright, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. I can't divorce you in my head from Kevin Spacey. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
See, I've got that. You need to go and watch The Princess Bride about 1,000,000 times, like I did when I was a kid, because that will forever be what I always associate Robin Wright with that, as opposed to Kevin Spacey. Thankfully.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Robin Wright.
Well, I think that's a lovely note to end on then, because frankly, I didn't want to end on me just railing against a bad Swedish movie, and here we are with a lovely, touching Robert Zemeckis joint to land this metaphorical movie plane.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to do it for us this week, which leaves us with one simple question to answer, which is that, Anthony, what is your favourite movie?
It has to be Forrest Gump.
Yeah, it's a solid choice. In honour of Chopping Mall, I'm going to go for RoboCop because it's another robot cop doing a bad job. Thank you for joining us this week, then, folks. I hope you enjoyed this issue of the Movie Diary. I don't say that often enough. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really do.
Like, it's from the bottom of our heart. We do hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. No, thank you for coming along with us on this. It's not inaugural. What's the word I'm trying to look for here? These early episodes.
I mean, we've been sitting talking to each other, filming our conversations for years. We may as well start putting them on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. We'll put on the back catalogue of us just. Yeah. Those videos don't exist, by the way. Please don't ask for them.
Yeah, don't ask for those back catalogues.
But yeah, so I just want to say thank you to Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot for the use of our theme song. You can find the links to their stuff down in the description below on YouTube. And again, it's the Culture Cave on YouTube if you want to check us out. We've got lots of interesting stuff there. We've got the After Dark podcast where we go through TV shows. We've got movie reviews, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, get involved in the comments, share the show with your friends, shoot us a like. But apart from that, we will see you same time, same place next week.
And cut.